Greetings and salutations. This is Abdelhadi with The Bitter Truth, where we may not have all the answers, but we ask an awful lot of questions. You can also become a bitter pill or a spoonful of sugar by visiting patreon.com/The Bitter Truth and get some fabulous swag and make your life better. Today, really excited to have a gentleman that I have looked up to for quite a few years now. He is the host of Redacted Tonight. He is the author of Bullet Points and Punchlines, currently on tour, live and nationwide. We've got Lee Camp. How are you, Lee?
Hey, Abe, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate you, man. So let's just jump right into it because I know your time's kind of limited. You're super busy and you record your show. But start off with a simple question, based on kind of what I'm seeing in Iowa again, and I'm expecting a contested convention like maybe DNC 1968. Is the empire over?
I wish it were, but yeah, we're seeing all the same tricks from last time around, except now I think they're on crack or something. It's steroids to 2016. As you recall, there was a lot of contention and fighting back then. They were arguments over the Iowa numbers as well. But this time around, they decided to funnel it through a mystery app that was untested. It had no security precautions. Department of Homeland Security hadn't seen it. It was designed entirely by former Clinton staffers almost. The company called Shadow Inc., which could you come up with a more Orwellian name for it? Shadow Inc., the CEO and COO of that are all former Hillary campaigners. The staffers, the acronym is the name of the company, the umbrella organization, and that CEO, Tara McGowan, is married to Buttigieg's top strategist. And Buttigieg also, open secrets has revealed the Buttigieg campaign donated over $40,000 to this acronym to create the Shadow app that has now destroyed the Iowa caucuses, basically just to take away a win from Bernie Sanders. So I don't think the dirty tricks are going to stop here.
Well, and then Tom Perez wants a recanvass, right?
Well, yeah, they were leaking out these numbers. First it was 62%, and Buttigieg is winning, even though he's losing the popular vote. And then they got up to 75%, and his lead's shrinking and shrinking. And now they're up to like 99%, and his lead is down to 0.1 delegate equivalent, while he loses the popular vote heavily. And at that point, Tom Perez steps in and says, "Enough is enough. We need to recount everything."
Well, that's like throwing a coup in Bolivia and then saying, "Well, we need to have a new election because their old election wasn't valid." Why wasn't it valid? It's because you didn't like it.
Right. This one, it wasn't valid because they created an app specifically designed just to destroy it. Right. So they walked in, destroyed the caucuses, and then said, "This is ridiculous. We need to recount it." Well,
and then let me ask you something. So we and people really don't pay attention to this stuff. The fact that we've got, they've already stacked the convention with all of their cronies. Yep. And John Podesta, who should be investigated for campaign finance fraud, is the chair of the convention.
Yeah, Tom Perez put out his list of nominees recently, and it is just a who's who of Wall Street goons, former Clintonites, people that have just done the most horrific stuff in terms of corporate heads and things like that, and that's who it is. There's not I don't know if there's a single one on the list that has ever shown any support for Bernie Sanders. And, the irony at the heart of this is you don't have to, love Bernie Sanders or necessarily, believe one thing politically on this side or the other to understand that we should have a legitimate process, a legitimate primary election, and the Democrats should get behind their nominee. And if they did that, they would likely win this next election because polling shows Bernie Sanders does very well against Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. But instead, they would rather destroy this whole process, put in the corporate, coronated candidate like Buttigieg or Biden, although Biden's collapsing, right, and then lose the main election, both because those candidates polling shows don't do as well against Trump, but furthermore, because you have said to every voter that has voted in the Democratic primaries, we don't care about what you think. We are going to just install our corporate-friendly, Wall Street-friendly, Clintonite, person that you don't actually support. And so we care nothing about the Democratic voters. And when you do that, people don't come out to the general election. So they're basically saying they'd rather lose to Donald Trump than to allow a legitimate primary election. And, I think people also need to remember that in lawsuits following the 2016 election, DNC lawyers actually said in court that they have the right to rig their own primaries. They are under no obligation to have a free and fair primary election. That was their argument in a court of law.
Right.
And I think people need to realize that. And I'm not saying give up and go home. I'm saying that if people want a legitimate vote, they have to pay attention and they have to vote in, the people have to vote in such numbers that you swamp what's stolen.
See, but and to speak to an earlier point you made, that app that they used in Iowa was only 2 months old, right? And the Department of Homeland Security, you just said, didn't see it. This reminds me of the FBI not getting the servers from the DNC who claimed to be, robbed by Russia. And they destroyed the servers, but then gave them a facsimile of servers. And you're going, well, wait a minute, what the fuck is that about, right? And so
that's a great analogy because it is exactly the same. Where you're claiming, either with the shadow app they're claiming incompetence, with the servers they're claiming they were hacked by Russia, and yet at the end of the day they don't want anyone to see it or actually investigate it. They, ultimately first denied the FBI's request, and then ultimately gave them mock-ups of their servers and claimed they destroyed their servers. Donna Brazile said on national television, "We destroyed the servers." Like, why would you do that? That's the scene of a crime, right? At least they're claiming. So that would be like if you stumbled upon a dead body, called the cops arrive, they say, "Where's the body?" And you say, "Oh, I chopped it up and threw it in the river." It doesn't make any sense.
And I beg your pardon, I'm getting over a cold. That's funny. Okay, well, see, and this is kind of okay. I got friends in person. I live here in Austin. It's kind of a small town compared to where I'm from in LA. It's easy to hit a couple of bars.
I'm going to play Austin.
Oh yeah, I know you are. I'm excited about it. I'm going to talk about that too. But the challenge I have with my friends in person or online is they said the same thing they've said the last 5 cycles. Well, no, just this time. No, we got to vote blue this time. Well, blue who? But Buttigieg, the guy's a CIA tool. And they just seem to willingly give over, and it doesn't piss them off that they want to impeach Trump, but they don't even want to investigate the Clinton campaign from 2016. They want to, and they give Trump everything he asked for, including a standing ovation for Juan Guaido at the State of the Union address. I'm like, when is enough enough? I mean, do you think we got the wherewithal to protest like we did back in the day? And I don't mean this pussy hat wearing toddler crap or, the climate, the climate marches and Greta Thunberg, and she was so awesome. And no, I mean, I'm talking about the kind of shit that gets your heads cracked. Like Occupied, or
yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
I mean, that's a great point. A protest only, actually achieves anything if there's any sort of threat to interrupt business as usual. Mm-hmm. If it's just, hey, we have a 2-hour permit to go down and hold signs, my partner on Common Censored, Eleanor Goldfield, she calls that a parade. That's not a protest. It's a parade. You had a parade. And fine, enjoy your parade, have your signs. I'm not opposed to signs, but you've got to have a threat afterwards of interrupting business, because otherwise they know what to expect and they have no problem with it. Sure, come here, hold your signs, go home afterwards, and we'll talk, and we'll keep doing the same corruption and the same rigging we've been doing all along. And your reference to Juan Guaido, Buttigieg is absolutely the Juan Guaido of America so far. Mm-hmm. He came out of nowhere. He got almost no votes. 80% of Venezuela had never heard of Juan Guaido when he announced himself the president with 0 votes towards the presidency. Buttigieg announced he had won the Iowa caucuses with 0 votes counted in Iowa. When he started running, no one knew who he was. He was a mayor of a small town, got something like 8,000 votes in his mayoral race. So in his entire political career, he's had a few thousand people vote for him to be in office. It's so ridiculously laughable all. And I'll tell you one person, though, who did know who he was the moment he started running. I think the moment he announced his exploratory committee was Tara McGowan, the CEO of Shadow Inc. She tweeted out the moment Buttigieg started running, "Oh, my God, Buttigieg is running, so excited." Like, it's amazing.
Well, and then, but again, it's like, this is like, when I was driving down here, I was on the phone with a good friend of mine and love her to pieces. You know, she just kind of started paying attention to all this crap last 3 or 4 years because she hates Donald Trump. And for years and years, I was that guy at the party, right? For years and years, I was that guy at the party. Why are you so negative? Why are you so negative? Like, back in the day when I was, younger, and I had hair, I used to play in bands. And, we'd do a show and go out, after or whatever. And I mean, when I was a kid, we didn't have the internet. We had the LA Reader and the LA Weekly, and that's how you found out about El Salvador. And I was 19. Yeah. I was 19, running track in college, and on the bus, me and my coach would get in arguments about El Salvador. It was like 1983, and he's like, "Well, better dead than red." I go, "Yeah, unless you're the dead guy." The fuck, And I'm rattling off like, "Hey, 1,000 people a month are getting killed by the junta." Da, 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 da. And the guys on the team thought it was funny. But, because they saw these guys discussing this stuff. But then, like, if I was at a party later, "Okay, man, don't bring up that politics shit, man." I'm like, well, dude, it's not like politics. It's not, this, like gays, guns, or abortion. It's like, this is the big macro stuff that runs the nation, right? And then when 2016 went down, I'm sure your friends did the same thing. It's like, what do we do? Oh, my God, how did this happen? Like, well, I feel like Noah and the Ark. I've been telling you it's going to rain, and you didn't believe me.
Yeah, I mean, so much of this has been going on for so long. You brought up the 1968 convention. I mean, it's once you start studying the history of this stuff, and even things like this neo-McCarthyism, calling everything that is slightly left of center Russian, and now right of center as well with Donald Trump, and just call everything Russian. That goes back to years, 100 years. Martin Luther King was endlessly called communist sympathizer, all this stuff. And people love to forget that our history is just repeating itself because, people either don't learn the lessons or they learn the wrong lessons, and then they whitewash the history and they act like Martin Luther King was just Santa Claus who brought gifts to little boys and girls, and they want to ignore the fact that he had any criticisms of capitalism and Vietnam and all those things, and, that's likely what got him killed.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I mean, the FBI, I read one of his biographies about 6-7 years ago that Johnson had to pull him into his office and say, "Hey, look, the FBI is pulling off their security." And this was like in early 67, and they both knew what that meant. And, Johnson was not a huge fan of his, but he didn't want to see anything happen to the guy because that would be bad optics, right? And goddamn it, that's exactly what happened. And when we talk about whitewashing history, people love to forget that it was Bobby Kennedy's attorney general with his DOJ that had King surveilled. He was the one who ordered surveillance on Martin Luther King. And then it gets complicated. We're the only industrialized country in the world that operates on a good guy, bad guy narrative. And it's almost impossible to say, no, our guy's good. They don't do that. And you're going, yeah, they do because it's complicated. They do. I mean, it's
well, to take some of the complication out, I think you can, simmer it down to the oligarchs want to continue to control this country, and they feel themselves losing power, losing grasp of the official narrative, which is why they have to shut down so many of us online and shut down social media platforms and really anything. I mean, if you'll remember during the 2016 election, things like CNN and MSNBC, if you went and on YouTube, those videos would have 5,000 maybe views. Nobody's going to YouTube to watch CNN, and those of us who were giving a more truthful, like anti-war narrative, we'd have hundreds of thousands of views.
Right.
Well, now they've reversed that. They've crushed us down to 5,000 or 10,000 views a video, and you'll see a CNN video with 400,000 views for nothing. Mm-hmm. And it's like, who is going to YouTube to watch CNN? Nobody. But they're ramming it down people's throat, and a lot of people in this country are lazy. So if they see a recommended video, they go with it, and that's what they had to do. And despite all all of that, despite really crushing alternative narratives to the propaganda, pro-corporate, pro-Wall Street, pro-war propaganda we see on our mainstream airwaves, they still haven't been able to contain Bernie Sanders. And that has them nervous as hell. They're freaking out. They're putting in the, CIA Pete to try and stop it. They thought maybe Biden could do it, but he's a catastrophe, and people seem to remember his record. And so now it's between oligarch Bloomberg, CIA Pete, and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and let me ask you something, because I was going to ask you this later, but I may as well ask you now. So, and it's a dumb question before I even ask it. Is the shutdown bullshit getting any better for you? Because I remember I've seen you mention that before, and then I have looked at your videos, and yeah, it's like I was always amazed that because the number cut, because a few years back you were getting like 250,000 views, and now it's like I'll see a Redacted Tonight episode and has like 8,000 views. I was going, how and it I guess that's the filter, that's the algorithm, they like to call it.
Well, I think there's a general algorithm that hurts us to begin with. So if I were on any channel, any YouTube channel, I'd probably be hurt by their algorithm, which demonetizes and harms videos, whatever, slows down videos that talk about things like terrorism, like war, like Israel. If you're talking about any of those things, economic exploitation, all of those things are going to get you hurt in the YouTube algorithm. But I have I and anyone at RT America, have a secondary kind of pressure on us, boot on the throat, because of, just being at RT America or anything. So Chris Hedges and me and Jesse Ventura and everything. And so it's like a double whammy. It's I'm getting hit from all sides. And you're right that on YouTube, our main episodes are down to, 50,000 or something, when they used to be up in, 300, 400,000 and stuff like that. But, I never thought, but even before I had the TV show, I never thought that going against the war machine, going against the Wall Street machine was going to be easy. I never thought I was going to be, rewarded and high-fived for it by the global oligarchs, the ruling elite. So, while I'm not surprised by it, it is, tough to see, annoying to see, incredibly frustrating. You want to think that the internet is fair and free, that people can watch what they want, but they can heavily shut things down by simply changing what's recommended to people, and not everyone is media literate to the level that they just search out the things that they know are important. A lot of people go with what gets advertised in the corner of their eye, and so it is harmful. And then on Facebook, thank God they haven't just deleted my page, but I have 335,000 followers, and they basically just capped me at that as of 2016. Shadow capped me without ever saying anything to me. I didn't get any strikes against me. I was gaining 6,000 followers a week, and wow. They just shut it down. So it's stuck there, and my videos don't get nearly the number of shares they used to.
The same number for 4 years.
What's that?
It's at the same number now for 4 years.
It got capped in like 2016. So, I guess we're going on 4 years of it.
And not a budge.
They have decreased it a little. So I'm down to 330,000, but I used to be gaining. I got up to that number by gaining a ton of followers every week, and I can't do it anymore.
That's crazy. Well, so, and then, and I'm sure your friends are smarter than mine. So when is enough, right? Like when do people start not paying it? Like I get this crap all the time. Well, the New York Times said, and then if you say anything, they level that term conspiracy theorist at you. And I'm like, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. First of all, it's conspiracy fact. It's not a conspiracy fucking theory.
Right.
Jeff Bezos does own the Washington Post. That's not a theory. That's a fact. Right. You can look it up. Who owns the Des Moines Register? Gannett. What else does Gannett own? Gannett owns goddamn USA Today. So that's not a theory.
Gannett owns like 30% of all newspapers or something.
Yeah, it's like, so it's not a theory. You can Google it, and see who they, and then Gannett itself is owned by News Media something, right? So it's just like it becomes it becomes kind of not tiresome, but you just get kind of like, dude, you're a grown up. You're an adult. And I hear this shit all the time, like, well, Trump voters are not educated, and a lot of them didn't go to college. I went to college, for the fuck all that means, and I know a lot of people that went to college, and they talk like 12-year-olds. If Rachel Madcow didn't say it doesn't exist.
It wasn't until I was about 35 that I realized, the world's run by children. It's run by children.
Yeah. Yeah,
they're all just children.
Yeah, and it's like I used to teach school back in the day, right? And then I was in my mid-30s at that time, and I did it for a few years, and I was like, you know what? Life is a lot like 8th grade, just more money. Kids say the same shit. I forgot my homework. I don't know. I didn't know. Oh, but the teacher told me. It's the same. It's the same crap. So
and honestly, that's what the powers that be, and I'm talking about the ones outside of Donald Trump, that's why they hate him so much, is he accidentally, unknowingly, unintelligently takes the mask off of what they are. I mean, they are narcissistic, warlike, war hawk, greedy assholes, and Donald Trump reveals them accidentally. He's not trying to reveal them. He just is. He can't stop himself. He can't help himself. He doesn't know how to cover it up.
Right.
He doesn't know how to speak in the dog whistles that are appropriate for the ruling elite, and that's why they so desperately want to get rid of him. It's not because of his policies. I mean, if you look at what Nancy Pelosi and her Democrats stand with Trump on, it's 90% of what the hell he's doing in office. It's just that he is revealing the oligarchy for what it is, and it's an accidental reveal which they can't stand. It drives them nuts.
Well, and that's the thing with their fans, because that's what they are. They're fans. They just breathlessly accept what they're told by the DNC. And Nancy Pelosi tore up that speech. That was just so super duper. Like, fuck off. I mean, this is what makes me fucking bananas. It's like, except for gays, guns, and abortion, they're the same goddamn party. And when you check out, like Trump kicked 700,000 people off of his assistance, right? This last fall. And everyone lost their mind, rightfully so. But nobody gave a shit when Obama kicked off 850,000 people off of assistance.
Yep.
Right? Or
Yep. And I saw an article, I think it was Guardian, about hundreds of El Salvadorians have been murdered after we kicked them out of our country. They came here as refugees, and we said no and sent them back, and they've been murdered once they got back home. And it turns out most of them under Obama.
Right. Right. So, I mean, we got a couple of minutes here, and before we start kind of wrapping up, I know you got to get going, but, and I watch your show a lot. And I respect the fuck out of you. I think you're one of the few honest guys in media. Period.
Thanks.
And seriously, like because you're a funny guy. You got a good vibe. You could go do this shit on Fox and Friends or some crap, and you don't. You got integrity, and you mean what you say. But moving forward. What is the charge moving forward? Like, because we could point out the shit all day long. What are some of the things that we can do, right? Aside from getting out in the street and really getting out in the street, like you said, not getting a permit for 2 hours. What are some of the things you think people can do right now, right? Like, aside from voting.
Well, right. So I think there's two aspects to this right now, because part of, I think, activism is you should take the energy that is already happening. And, Occupy was able to channel the energy that was coming off of the Arab Spring, the energy that was coming off of the crisis, the economic crisis from 2008. So there's certain energies that Occupy surfed on and then, grew and made larger points about. So I think that using this election rigging that we're seeing, and who knows whether Bernie Sanders will be able to beat the rigging or not, but using it to make a point about our rigged elections, to make a point about the ruling elite of the Democratic Party and how they don't care about voters, and to really get active in that sense. It's not that voting, I think, is largely not influential. I think you should vote. but I think you should view it like wiping your ass. It's just something you do, and then you need to, if you really want to create change, you have to think far larger than voting. But I'd say because that is where the energy of our media and our country is going to be for the next several months until the Democratic convention and, well, until maybe the next election, I think we should use that, and activists should use that and organize and pay attention and stand up for legit elections in all regards. And that can then be, channeled into a larger fight for change in this country. And then I think there's a separate kind of activism which needs to take place, which needs to be outside of electoral politics, which needs to, we need to start getting angry and active about our world, about the environmental collapse, about the species extinction, about the exorbitant wealth being extracted in the hands of a tiny number of sociopaths. All of those things, and we can't just channel all that anger into electoral politics. If you get furious that all the bees are dying and that your grandmother can't afford health care, and then you channel all of that anger and all of that fury that is built up over years of watching your family be miserable or your environment collapse around you, and you channel it all into one little vote for one little person during one little primary, then they've already won. That is what they want. It's for you to take all that anger and make it all about one little thing. Instead, you need to take that anger, and we need to organize. People need to decide, pick maybe a smaller issue, or not smaller, but a piece of an issue, and become an expert on it, and join together and fight for it, and then unify. I mean, we're so good. People who want to create change, activists, are so good at hating each other and fighting against each other, tearing each other apart, it just serves the power. If you're separating and not unifying, I mean, look at the French right now in their protests. Not that their protests don't have their own issues, but that is a lot of different groups unified to fight against the neoliberal Macron order. That is, you've got all types of workers, all types of unions. You've got libertarians working with leftists. You've got all types of people that are saying this is not the system we want, and they've put their differences aside to change that. And without unifying, then there's little hope.
Yeah, no, I get it. And I was going to mention France, and you just did. And again, you say France to some people, they glaze over. There's strikes in France? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, don't watch MSDNC, man. Watch something else. There's a million peer-reviewed sources. You can go to Common Dreams, Truth Dig. There's a million things you can go do. Even The Intercept on half of it is shit, unless Glenn Greenwald writes it. It's still better than the American mainstream press, which is state-run media. I mean, you make this point a lot with the RT stuff. They got to register as a foreign agent. This is bullshit. But hey, listen, man. We're kind of coming to the end. You're on tour, obviously, and you're coming to Austin and on February 28th, right?
Yeah, February 28th, and I believe Dallas is February 29th.
Excellent, man. Well, listen, I'm going to put the links on that.
People can.
Go ahead.
Yeah, people can get tickets and details at leecamp.com, or you can go to redactedtour.com, and that's got all the cities and all the details. Also, my new book is out called Bullet Points and Punchlines. It's shipping now, I believe, if you order online. So go to leecampbook.com. It's got an intro from Jimmy Dore and a foreword from Chris Hedges, and it's a lot of my columns from Truth Dig and much more. So I hope people will at least give that a look.
Awesome, man. Hey, I appreciate the time. And folks, again, guest has been Lee Camp. Hope you got something out of it. Again, you can visit patreon.com/thebittertruth. And as always, if this stuff makes you uncomfortable, it's supposed to. Sleep tight.